In our third segment, we're going international. How do cultural stereotypes affect students here at USC? Stay with us and join our conversation with Italian student Valentina Scarlata and local student Joe Tate, who studied in Paris. The host of this segment is Roni Yohanan, producer is Maria Bashmakova, and editor is Bobbi Broome. This is Coconut versus Peach.
Stereotypes are typically a generalization about how a certain group behaves. For example, when you think of Italian cuisine, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Most of us have an image of the two most delicious foods.
It is a stereotype to a certain extent, because to be fair, we eat pasta every day, but pizza is usually kept once a week. It's like a tradition.
I see.
So you basically have pasta every day, but not for every meal. It's recommended that you eat pasta for a good balanced Mediterranean diet just for lunch. So we tend to avoid pasta at dinner, but usually if you have had pasta for one meal, you don't have it at the next one. And then usually there's the tradition of eating pizza once a week, and it's usually a weekend day, Saturday or Sunday.
Bene.
Benissimo.
Benissimo. Although people may have good intentions when bringing up positive stereotypes about a culture, or even think that they're giving a compliment, it's not always about the intention, but more about the impact. On a general scale, every culture has their perceptions about other cultures. For instance, when Joe was in Paris, he encountered a waiter who had very clear thoughts on how Americans behave.
I think there's like 8 or 9 of us, and we were going to this super popular Italian restaurant in Paris called Pink Mama. So we were all super excited, and we got like a reservation and all this. So then we're waiting in line, and we go in. And as soon as we sit down, we notice that other tables that have smaller parties are getting helped a lot faster than we are. So we're kind of just like antsy and waiting to get our food ordered and all that. So then once we got the waiter to come, we ordered our food and all that. But then as time gone on, they wouldn't really come and check on us. So we'd have to like wave them down with our hands or kind of like yell at them to come back and help us. So as that was going on, we could kind of tell that they were like getting frustrated and annoyed at us. So one of my friends, Maida, who's Muslim and wears a headscarf, I think she said something to our friend like, "Oh, I'm so stupid," like she made a mistake, kind of just like commented to the side to our friend. And our waiter was like, "Yeah, you are," like pretty like verbally, like half the table heard it, and like it was an obvious reaction to my friend Maida. I just saying, and like hearing her blatantly say like, "Yeah, you are," like in reference to my friend calling her stupid, was just, I was like taken aback. Yeah, I call people like dumb or stupid every once in a while, but never to my face, and especially in a setting that's like professional in a restaurant or a restaurant setting. I was just thinking it's so disrespectful to like say that to someone. My friend didn't do anything wrong, and especially to say to my Muslim friend out of like anyone else, whether that was Islamophobic or not. But besides the fact, as we were leaving, she was waiting one of the tables nearby. I called her like a fucking or something. Yeah, it was quite rude, though honestly I think she deserved it in the moment. And then we went down the 3 flights of Pink Mamas after our meal, and the waiter and the entire staff literally chased us out and were yelling "fuck you" and flipping us off and all this stuff. So they were pretty upset. This was after we talked to the manager and tried to be respectful and polite about it. So after that, I was just reflecting a lot and analyzing about that, and was thinking like, in America that might happen, though it's probably way less likely because they're incentivized to be nice and respectful for a tip and all that. Whereas in France, like, they're getting paid a livable wage. They don't need to be fake and smile in your face in order to get the money that they need. So they can act, however they want and however they think is right. So I thought in that instance, it was kind of off-putting. Yeah, I might have to go back and see if it's different sometime. Yeah, the food was actually good. Really delicious.
On the other hand, there are stereotypes that can be more offensive.
One time, a person came up to me. We were in a group of people, and we were showing each other like on Google Earth how like our city looked, where we grew up looked like in terms of like house, school, etc. And when I showed like the map view of my house and my neighborhood, she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Is your dad a mafioso?" And I was like, because like that's actually extremely offensive. Like there's nothing to laugh about because it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing in Italy itself. And like if you were to tell someone, oh, you're a mafioso, it's like actually a really, really, really offensive thing to say. And I feel that because, again, like, I don't know why, but probably because of the media, because of this romanticized vision people kind of have also on what mafia is, they don't give it the actual value and weight that it should have. Especially when you hear something like that coming from someone that is not Italian.
Even the most thoughtless statement could offend someone. Similarly, Joe encountered a more aggressive interaction at a nightclub in Paris.
Me and my friends were all going out to a nightclub at like, I think it was like midnight, and we were looking up nightclubs because we didn't know if you had to look a certain way or speak French or whatever to get in. So we looked at this one, and it was near the Arc de Triomphe, and it looked super nice, and we're like, whatever, we'll just go. So we're waiting in line, and like we looked nice, but we didn't have like high heels on or dresses or anything like that. So we're waiting in line. We finally get to the front, and the bouncer, the first thing he asked us is, do you speak French? And he asked that in French, and I said yes, even though like I really don't, just because I want to get in. He's like, no sneakers, like you can't come into the club if you have sneakers. And I was like, I called him stupid in French, just like as I was walking away, just like, you're stupid, like this is so dumb, whatever. And then like as I'm walking away, I literally feel a huge punch to my head. The bouncer, who's literally like 6'6", like 280 pounds, like a gigantic man, literally punched me in the side of my head as I was walking away. And I almost like collapsed to the ground. I probably had a concussion. I had like a headache the whole night. They were like about to mace me in the face, and mace is illegal in France. And I was like recording them on my phone, screaming. And I guess I am the loud American when I really think about it. I really was yelling my way all around Paris.
Many of us have experienced bias or have unconsciously contributed to bias. A popular theory that we will be discussing is the coconut versus peach theory. This theory is a useful metaphor to understand the miscommunication of building relationships across cultures. When we apply this theory to the US and Europe, the US is often described as a peach culture. This implies that Americans are soft on the outside, they are very friendly to the people they just met, they smile at strangers, they chat, they share information, and they're very nice and helpful. However, once you get past the initial friendliness, you see that their real private self is protected by a hard shell of the pit. You often hear complaints that they are only nice on the outside, but it's impossible to become real friends with an American. On the other hand, Europeans are often described as coconut cultures. They are hard on the outside, they rarely smile at strangers, and they do not easily engage in conversations. They may even look unfriendly at first. However, if you manage to break through their hard outer shell, they tend to become close, loyal friends who will accept you as family. Relationships build slowly but last a lifetime.
I feel that it's extremely true. I've heard so many times people have said to me, a bit because of my personality, because that's how I come off like at first, and a bit because of my cultural probably like background. I'm a bit of a coconut. Like when you ran into me on campus, like I usually have like this really like straight face. Like my friends always make fun of me because sometimes they ran into me and like I'm looking like I don't see other people. Like even if I'm looking in front of me, I'm not seeing anyone. So like I have this super like obscure face and I'm just walking and I look mad. I genuinely look like I'm mad even if I'm not. It could be like the happiest day of my life. So that also, it's probably the perception that can come off in general about Europeans. But on the contrary, when you first arrive here, and I always talk about this also with my friends, everyone is complimenting you. Oh my gosh, I love your jacket. Oh my gosh, I love your... But then when you start like interacting with them, it almost seems like you cannot get to a deeper level. You always like stop to this like surface level, which is nice and everything, but then like you want to get closer to that person, and it's almost like they don't want that. Like it's difficult. At first it was difficult, at least for me, understanding if it was because they were superficial, and so like, you know, it just stopped there because it was like that. But I cannot assume that. Like I cannot assume that, because I cannot believe that, you know, like so many people are so shallow. Like that's unbelievable to me. So I just started to realize that probably a lot of people do not feel, I don't know if do not feel comfortable. I feel that it's also like a cultural thing, like not letting people like in the harder part. Whereas Italians are a bit like, I think they're a bit of one of the exceptions in the European landscape, because Italians, we are coconuts, but at the same time we're like soft coconuts, because we're really like interactive, and like it depends on where you go in Italy, but in general, like we're among the most open one when it comes to interacting with people in general. But then like once you get in our graces, if we can say so, we let you in, like for real. Like we want a deeper understanding with you.
And honestly, it is so true. Yeah, I just feel like it's so accurate. But the interesting thing is like at least the French, they may be like fuzzy and hard on the outside, but they're very like authentic and genuine in the way that they act. Like that's what I appreciate about them, is their honesty. Like they may not like you or whatnot, though at least you know, because like a lot of Americans, they may be like a fuzzy warm peach on the outside, though it may not be super sweet or like ripe. It may be like a fake sincerity or whatnot.
Although both Valentina and Joe agree with the coconut versus peach theory, they share additional experiences which show that not all stereotypes are accurate.
One of my best friends is American. I have a lot of good friends that are American. 2 of my flatmates are American, and I've lived them. This is the second year I live with them, and they're like my family, you know. And so like, surely like there are exceptions, and like there is the possibility of getting closer. I think that in some cases it just takes longer to open up, for them to open up, which has been in some instances my case. In some other, it's just no. Some cases have just like reconfirmed this theory.
It kind of like instilled that same notion that I had, that French people were kind of rude and standoffish, though also like there were a good amount of French people who were super sweet, and like I'll leave Paris thinking of them as well, but it's obviously, you know, goes hand in hand. But I would say that experience definitely like reinforced that stereotype, though it didn't reinforce it to the amount that like I would never go back to France or Paris because of the rude people. Like people are rude, like shit happens, that's life. So I feel like you have to deal with it at some extent.
A lesson we could learn from Valentina and Joe's collective stories is to release our expectations of others in order to improve our relationships. As a society, our goal should be to dismantle preconceived notions that we have about one another through more acceptance and less judgment.